your time here. My name is Ben Almasi. I'm really happy to be with y'all tonight. I'm a faculty member here at Governor State and the coordinator for Interdisciplinary Studies. And so we just wanted a chance to tell you all a little bit about the Interdisciplinary Studies program at Governor State, some of the different options, the different tracks for pursuing it, and why it might be a good fit for people. So on the call tonight, we've got myself, my name is Ben. We've got Ivan Soto, who is academic advisor at Governor State, who specializes in interdisciplinary studies. We also have Dr. Debbie James, who is the chair of the Division of Arts and Letters, which is sort of where interdisciplinary studies is located. And we have Dr. Jason Zingsheim, who's the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. So thank you so much for all three of you for being here, and to Dominique and Mandy. So want to tell you a little bit about the program, but also we're going to have lots of time for y'all to ask questions, share with what's on your mind. But I want you to know that if you ever want to write a question, you can absolutely do that. You can just say it out loud too, but if you ever want to write a question, you can use the chat function to write for the rest of us. Right. All right. So let me start off by just telling y'all a little bit about interdisciplinary studies at Governor State. It's actually one of the oldest programs at our university, and yet just in the last year, we've had some really new and exciting changes. We have new courses that are part of the interdisciplinary studies major, and we now have 3 different tracks that a person could do to complete the major: a fully online track, an accelerated track, and a sort of flexible combination track where you can pursue it at your own pace. So it's really exciting. But you might wonder, like, what kinds of folks decide to major in interdisciplinary studies? Why might that be a good fit for me? And there are a few different reasons why, right? So one might be that you're really passionate about like multiple different disciplines and you want to bring them together, right? So maybe you're passionate about business, but you're also passionate about psychology. You actually want to think about like the psychology of business. Well, you could bring together like significant study of both and integrate them for interdisciplinary studies. That could be a reason why somebody might do this. Or maybe there's a subject that you're really passionate about and Governor State offers it as a minor, but we don't offer it as a bachelor's degree. And so you could combine that with an interdisciplinary studies degree. For example, maybe you're really passionate about religious studies. You want to go into the seminary or you want to be a pastor. And you could get a minor in religious studies and you could pair that with an interdisciplinary studies degree. Or you might have the same kind of thing about Spanish. You want to pursue Spanish. You want to pursue occupational therapy. We have a really great occupational therapy graduate program, but we don't have an OT or a PT undergrad. And so you might decide to get your undergrad degree in interdisciplinary studies so that you can then launch yourself, say, to occupational therapy. So those are some good reasons. Or it might be like a lot of students that come to Governor State, you have college credits that you've earned from many different institutions, and you want to bring them together. You want to unify this work that you've done into like a meaningful bachelor's degree. And that's what our interdisciplinary studies degree sort of enables, right? So I had mentioned before that we have 3 different tracks that a person could choose from. And so I want to show you all just really briefly. This is our main website for interdisciplinary studies. And you can see these sort of 3 orange boxes that we have here on the screen. So one option is to do this degree completely online. We offer all of the interdisciplinary studies core required courses. We offer them all as online courses. So you could always take them that way, right? We have a fully online option. Or maybe you want to have some flexibility. Maybe you want to be able to take courses online sometimes, but you also want to be able to have like an in-person component. Maybe you know that there are certain classes that work really much better for you if you're able to be in person with the other students, with the instructor, and so on. And so we have the box on the left, the orange box on the left. That's sort of our traditional approach to interdisciplinary studies, where you can do a combination. You can do some online, some in person, some hybrid, which means that you do some of your work online and some of your work in person. And we make sure that every semester we offer some of our interdisciplinary studies classes online as well as in person, so that people who really need to be in person have that option, right? And then the third option, the one in the middle, is new. It's the Interdisciplinary Studies Accelerated Degree option. Now, just like the other two, the courses are the same, and the flexibility in terms of what you might want to study and where you want to might take this degree is the same. But this option in the middle, the accelerated degree option, is built in a very specific way, so that instead of taking, say, 4 classes at a time or 5 classes at a time, you would take just 2 classes at a time. And you would take them in 7.5-week increments. And then you could finish your degree within a year, if that's what you want to do. That's what the middle option is built for. So you can start in August, and then by the end of the next summer, you would have finished your degree. But you could do it by focusing on just a couple of classes at a time. So we have these 3 tracks, and what's really exciting about them is that all 3 of them allow you flexibility in terms of what courses you want to take. But some of these are going to work better for some students than others. Now, before I talk a little bit about the actual courses and how the interdisciplinary studies courses could complement the other things that you're interested in, I wanted to turn things over to Jason and ask Jason, do you want to say anything more about the accelerated degree option at this time, or do you want to wait a little bit later?
It might make sense to wait till after
Sure.
you go over the next section, just so that the people know what the content is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that interdisciplinary studies is really strong about is that it gives students flexibility in terms of what courses they want to take and how they want to bring those courses together in an integrated way. So we have a 5-course required sequence, which is 15 credit hours. Now, that's a lot less than a traditional degree. And so what that means is it allows students to have more flexibility. I was talking about maybe you want to bring psychology and business together. Maybe you have a minor in Spanish or religious studies that you want to pursue, and this degree gives you that flexibility to do so. So we have a 5-course sequence. We start off with a writing class to really think about writing, not just from one particular discipline's perspective, but writing across multiple different disciplines. That's really how everybody gets started with the writing class. And then we have, we complete, sorry, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. We complete the degree with a capstone project, and each student gets to decide for themselves if they want to do a research capstone or if they want to do more of a service learning capstone. So we start with that writing class. That's the first class, and we end with one of these capstones. And then along the way, every interdisciplinary studies major will take these 3 courses here in the middle. We have a theories course where we really think about what does it mean to work across multiple disciplines. And that's a great course for being able to help explain to people what does your interdisciplinary studies degree enable you to do? What skills has it enabled you to do? And then we have a course that is specifically about career planning, which can be incredibly valuable, especially for people who aren't getting a traditional degree, right? And then last but not least, we have a course that's specifically about interdisciplinary ethics, right? Thinking about what are the ethical challenges of working with people who are different than you? What are some of the ethical challenges of working on a team where people have multiple disciplinary trainings, multiple different cultures, these kinds of things. And so you start with a writing class, you complete with a capstone class, and then you've got some flexibility in terms of these other 3 classes, our career class, our theories class, and our ethics class, about when you want to take those, right? When they fit well in your schedule. Maybe you want to take the career planning class right away because that's really where your mind's at. Maybe you want to wait a little bit longer. You have flexibility in terms of these middle courses. In addition to these 5 required courses, we also have some topics courses which are not required but can be a really interesting way to supplement these core courses. So, for example, we have an interdisciplinary leadership class. We have a class next fall called feminist storytelling. And these kinds of topics courses can be a really great example of what happens when you can bring multiple disciplines together. I wanted to talk a little bit about these courses, in part because you can see how open-ended they are, and you can see how they give you that flexibility to bring multiple disciplines together. To say, I know I've taken a lot of classes in anthropology, and I've taken a lot of classes, for example, in psychology. How could I actually unify those? How could I integrate what I've learned in these different classes in a way that will allow me to think more clearly, will allow me to think more expansively, and will allow me to speak to my strengths when I'm looking for a job? So those are the core courses. As you can see, they can pair with lots and lots of different electives, right? And everyone who gets a degree at Governor State will complete their degree with at least 120 credit hours, but you can bring with you many transfer credits, right? As long as you complete your 30 credit hours at Governor State, then that fulfills the residency requirement. And so I think this is enough talking from me right now. I wanted to ask Ivan. Ivan, could you talk to us a little bit about if a person wants to pursue an interdisciplinary studies degree, maybe it's the online track, maybe it's the accelerated track, maybe it's the flexible track. How would they go about doing this? What kind of initial conversation might they have with you as an advisor?
Yeah, so first of all, good evening. Usually I'm one of the first contact that the student has with the university. So I'll just take the scenario where I get a phone call or an email with a student. So let's say you just were accepted. Your degree audit may not be updated. And I wanted to show an example of a student who actually I worked with today. I spoke to her today, and she is ready to graduate this summer. So I'm going to show you an example of what I look at, what I'm looking for in terms of that initial advising appointment. Oftentimes, it'll take about an hour for a lot of students. And so, my style is, if we can meet on campus, let's meet on campus. If not, we'll get on the phone or even a virtual appointment just like this, where we can just meet one-on-one and I can share my screen, which I'm going to do in a second. But for the most part, I want to be part of your journey, the student's journey in terms of, as soon as they get to Governor State, I will be their contact, one of their contacts, right? Besides maybe financial aid or the Veterans Office, it may be disabilities. So I'm going to be part of the process in terms of making sure that students are making good decisions in terms of sequence, taking courses at the right time, the combinations of courses, maybe not taking too intensive writing classes during that same semester. So I'm going to jump right in and share my screen and show you an example. Oh, let me bring that down. Okay, does everyone see this degree audit? This is what we call a degree audit.
Yeah, it's nice and clear, Ivan. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the version that I work with students. It's going to be very similar for the student. So when you're looking at your, what we call a self-service degree audit, it's going to be very similar, but a lot more information. But I'm going to simplify it just for this exercise. So one of the things you want to make sure is that your degree is, the right degree. So you're going to see interdisciplinary studies. At this point, moving forward, we may have a student who's in the accelerated program. So you're going to see the accelerated abbreviations next to IDSS. you're going to see your catalog year. That's very important. So for example, this student started off most likely in 2022. And so whatever the requirements were for that year, that student can follow that catalog. And so like Ben mentioned, there's 5 IDSS specific courses that students have to take now. So that's going to be most likely a catalog year of 2024 for students moving forward. Okay, you're going to see your email address, of course, and then we get into the important information. So for example, you're going to see overall credits. I was actually looking at a list of students who are potentially going to join this program in the next fall semester, and you may see that you have 105 credits starting off, but what's important is that all of the requirements are completed. So for a particular student, they may have transferred in 105 credits, but they may need at least 30 credit hours to satisfy the university residency requirement. So they'll graduate potentially with 135. But I'm going to go through this real quick in terms of what do I look for when I'm working with students. Well, first of all, if you're not done with your general education classes, we're going to have a conversation about that. Some of our students may take these classes within Governor State, or they may choose to take those classes at a community college, especially if they're paying out of pocket. But in this case, this student took a upper division, what we call upper division, and that would be a course that starts with the number 3 or the number 4. So it's 3,000 or 4,000 level. So what I was able to do with this student, most likely I recommended this course, Art 3102, because it satisfied the fine arts and it satisfied the upper division. So I'm going to jump to that area. Oftentimes students get confused in terms of requirements. Yes, 120 credit hours is typically the minimum, but you also have to be mindful of all of the requirements in the program, including the I went too fast, including the upper division. The upper division will be exactly 40 credit hours. So for example, this student is completing her last remaining credit this semester. She's taking a meteorology, an IDSS course, as well as a social science course. So these courses, as you can see, they're 3. They're starting with the number 3. Some of these were with 4. And so they're going to satisfy this area. Some students that transfer in may have all of this done. So then the next thing we're going to look at is, how do you satisfy your 30 hours of residency? And so 5 of those classes will automatically be the IDSS classes. In this case, for this student, when she started, there were only 2 classes. Actually, there were 3. But now moving forward, as Ben mentioned, there's 5 IDSS classes. So we'll, massage those classes in. You may take 1 per semester, or if you're doing the accelerated program, it'll be 1 per every 7.5 weeks. Some of the other things that I'm looking for, again, do we have all of your transcripts? Are you a veteran? We'll get the veterans form filled out. Okay, so you can receive those benefits while you're attending Governor State. Do you need only online? Students may start off as a regular, typical IDSS student, where they have the option to do online or on campus. However, some of our students, they just can't make it to Governor State. So it makes sense to change their program to a exclusively online program. So that'll be IDSS online. One of the benefits for those students who are fully online is that you don't have to do the required immunization. You don't have to turn in that more recent vaccination. However, it is a requirement if you are in our traditional IDSS program that for the most part, you're probably going to have to do an immunization within the first semester or first year or 2. Okay. That's for the most part our initial, advising session. Again, I'm going to help students, with recommendations. I don't want to tell students what to do or what to take, but for the most part, I'm going to look at, kind of like my basket of options that I've recommended to prior students. And if students are interested in psychology, like Ben mentioned, we can look at adding a minor. If students want to add 2 or 3 minors, they can do that. I've had a student have at least 3 minors. I believe it was philosophy, religious studies, and perhaps psychology. So, we could look at how to creatively add, coursework to your program, to your curriculum, in terms of satisfying the upper division, satisfying the general education, as well as the minor. So that's all I have for now. If we have any questions at the end, I'm definitely excited about answering any of those. Thank you.
Ivan, thank you so much. That was super helpful. To our attendees who are on the call, if you have any questions, you can feel free to write those questions in the chat, or you can actually raise your hand and you can ask those questions in person. But before we get to the question period, and I'm sort of reminding you about that because maybe there's something that I said that reminded you of a question and you want to write it down, or maybe there's something that Ivan said that reminded you of a question, you want to write it down. And the same thing, I'm going to turn things over here for a moment to our dean, to Dr. Zingsheim. He's going to talk specifically in more details about the new accelerated program. And there will be plenty of time to ask questions later, but if you have questions that are spurred by what Dr. Zingsheim shares with us, feel free to write those questions in the chat so that you don't forget them. All right, Jason, what do you want to talk to us about with the new accelerated option?
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's the accelerated option that we're very excited about. This is a new thing that we're going to be launching in the fall. And so we've had the 2 tracks, the online or the flexible option where you can be online or on campus. And so we're adding to that this 3rd option for the first time in the fall. We're going to be piloting it. So we're going to have spaces limited. So that's one reason that we want to make sure people learn about it early. And for this accelerated program, you'll be taking 2 classes at an accelerated pace at a time. So still have 30 classes to finish. This is designed for somebody who already has 90 hours completed, whether that's at GSU or elsewhere, and at least 30 hours of residency and 30 hours to get to that 120 hours for the bachelor's degree. 5 of those classes, half of it is the interdisciplinary studies courses that we've already heard about today. And then we're also going to be offering another set of 5 electives that'll run on that same 7.5-week timescale. So each semester, you'll still complete 4 classes, but you'll do 2 at a time. So for the first half of the semester, you'll have the IDSS 3099 course, the academic writing course, and then that'll be paired with an elective that'll run at the same speed. So for some students who really want to focus on only 2 things at a time and do really well when they're focused and can move quickly, this will suit that sort of student. So if that's how you work, this might be something for you to consider. There are some pros and cons to it. The benefits are that you have a stable schedule for the entire year. So you know that your IDSS course will be hybrid, which means that they will meet on campus Tuesday nights from 6 to 8:50. And you'll have 1 week's worth of content during that in-class time. And then you'll also, because it's hybrid, have a week's worth of content online during that same week. So it's fast. You're still doing 15 full weeks of work, but you're doing it in half the time. But you know that every Tuesday you'll have class with maybe some holiday exceptions. You'll have this cohort of peers, 24 other students who are going through this with you at this speed. So you'll have peers you can rely on. You'll have faculty that are working together to also make sure that we don't have some major assignments due at the same time between the elective class and the IDSS course. You'll have some online electives that are pulled from our communication program, our sociology, our political science, our ethics courses that we think pairs really well and will provide you with some of the transferable skills that employers are looking for. You'll also have an opportunity to receive a debt waiver So for those who have pre-existing debt at Governor State, you can receive a waiver of up to $3,000 that will waive some of that pre-existing debt. That's first come, first serve while funds last, as always, for this fall 24 pilot. Another part of this to know is that you'll be required to attend an orientation. So on August 13th, that's a Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So the same time you'll have class, we'll have an orientation 2 weeks before classes start to get everybody ready. You'll have a chance to meet the faculty in the program and the other students who are in the program. So that kind of cohort system works really well for building community and having some folks that you can rely on to help you get through the program. And those are some of the benefits. It is not for everybody. And so we want to make sure that you really think about whether or not this works for you. If, let's say, you have children and they have a lot of events Tuesday nights for some reason, maybe that's when all their games are, and you can't possibly miss them, then this is not a good thing for you to do. Maybe you have work obligations and you have to be at work Tuesday nights for some reason. This is not for you. In that case, sign up for one of the other 2 IDSS tracks. Those are for you. Remember that it is accelerated and not abbreviated. So even though the classes are over quicker, you're still doing just as much work. And so for some people, the way they work, they need more time to kind of percolate with ideas. And so having a full semester to work with faculty works for them better than being able to work at a faster speed. You might think of it as like an audiobook where you can speed up how fast it talks back at you. If it gets too fast, then you want to shift back to the normal pace and the normal speed. If you have some gen ed requirements, like Ivan was talking about, that you still need to knock out, that might shift the schedule for you. So it's possible that we can find a class that works within a 7.5 period. If you need a humanities class, for example, we have one of those already built into the electives. So you can keep with the 7.5. There might be a semester though, where if you need a different gen ed that we don't offer in the 7.5 speed, that then you'll have to take a full semester course. It can be fully online, and all of the electives are fully online, so you don't have to come to campus any other time. But that might set it up where you're taking a different number of classes at a particular time. And Ivan can work through all of those specifics with you based on your individual classes and the transcripts that you're bringing to the degree. Like I said, all the electives are online, and the hybrid courses have a fair amount of online content. So if you don't like online learning, this is not for you. And that's important to know up front. You cannot get out of online learning. There will be expectations that you are doing work online throughout the week. Like I said, Tuesdays are important. And so it's a little less flexible. If you really want to do the speedy 7.5 week period, we have that course sequence set up for you. But you're going to have to take the electives that we've paired with the classes. And so you lose a little bit of that flexibility that you get with the other 2 options. But if the idea of only focusing on 2 things at a time makes sense, if your family and support network are behind you and they can handle dinner prep and childcare on Tuesdays and whenever else you need to study, if your work aligns, this could be a viable option for you. And for some people, it'll work really well. And if it doesn't sound like it's for you, then encourage you to strongly consider either the online or the flexible options as well. And I think that covers all the details that we should specify.
Jason, thank you so much. I think that was super clear. One of the things that Jason and Ivan and I have been trying to emphasize is that all 3 of these approaches, the fully online one, the sort of traditional flexible one where you could do some online and some in person, and the accelerated option that Dr. Zingheims was just talking about, they all have the same core courses. And they all offer the flexibility of you pursuing other courses outside of interdisciplinary studies. So it's really just about how you want to take the courses. And I really appreciate the points of emphasis, Jason, that you were just making. I just wanted to highlight one thing that you did say, which is one of the real upsides of this accelerated program is that you'll be together with a cohort of other interdisciplinary studies students taking all of these same classes together. And if you like the sound of that, that might be another reason why you might want to pursue that. On the other hand, if you see yourself as kind of an iconoclast, that's kind of why you came to interdisciplinary studies, then you have a lot more flexibility in one of the other tracks as well. So a lot of information from us, and we're happy to share more about our experiences, about how this degree program can work. But I wonder, Dominique, Mandy, Dwayne, do y'all have any questions for us about how interdisciplinary studies can work, or maybe just questions about Governor State? Oh, great. We've got a question in the chat from Dominique.
Yeah, I can answer that one. At this point, the debt waiver is only for the accelerated program because it's a new pilot program, something we're testing out to see if there's interest and to see how we can best support students through it. And ideally, because it is designed for folks who are coming back after being away for a while, perhaps because of debt, we wanted to remove that obstacle. So it is only for the accelerated track at this point. If you do have outstanding debt from Governor State, I mean, we probably all have other kinds of outstanding debt, but if you have Governor State debt and you're interested in the online or the flexible track, I would encourage you to speak with student accounts to have a conversation with them about how that might be handled. They're really willing to work with everybody in terms of coming up with payment plans and really helping students to figure out how to break that down in a way that is manageable.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks, Dominic, for getting us started. Other questions? Feel free to write them in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to ask out loud.
Okay, what is the deadline to sign up for the studies?
Good question, Dominique. So the part of the flexibility that we've been talking about is that you can start at Governor State as an interdisciplinary studies major, and you can start in any of our semesters in the fall, in the spring, and in the summer. If you're interested in pursuing the accelerated track that Jason has been talking about, that starts specifically in the fall semester. Jason or Ivan, do you all know what the deadline for the accelerated track might be?
That'll be August 1st.
Ah, okay. Thanks.
But like I said, the debt waivers are first come, first serve while funds last. So I would encourage you, if that is a track you're interested in, to talk with Ivan soon and apply sooner rather than later for that one. But yeah, like Ben said, if you're looking at either of the other tracks, you can start in fall, and our fall classes start on May 13th, I believe. Does anybody fact check me on that?
Yeah, for the summer schedule starts May 13th and it ends depending upon the course, but the fall semester will begin, I believe it's August, the end of August 31st. Yeah.
All right. While people are thinking about other questions, I also wanted to highlight another really cool dimension of our interdisciplinary studies degree, which is it enables people to earn college credit for your prior learning. Now, of course, if you've completed a college class at Moraine Valley or Illinois State or any number of places, you can bring that credit with you to Governor State. Absolutely. But in addition to all of that, in addition to the college credit that you've earned at other institutions, we also have a really cool program called Credit for Prior Learning. Maybe you've done something through your job where you did a really intensive certification, or maybe you've had experience through the military. It wasn't a college course, but the learning that was involved was equivalent to what you might learn in a college course. And so part of what we do in interdisciplinary studies with our colleague, Chris Greiner, and I'll put Chris's name and his contact information in the chat just in case people are interested in it. Chris works with students to help them receive credit for the earning that receive credit for the learning they've already done in some kind of non-traditional capacities. So that could be a really cool option that the interdisciplinary studies enables at Governor State.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, is that when you had to write an essay or something about your past life experience?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you're thinking about, Dwayne. It might be an essay. It might also be like, you've got a certification, you got a certificate that you got from the Navy or from the Postal Service or from some prior employment. So there's the essay that you might write to sort of speak to what you've done. And then also some kind of like documentation that might also be important as well. And so part of what Chris does is he works with students to figure out what does the student need to speak to in that essay? What kind of documentation do they need to gather? And instead of having to just do it entirely on your own, Chris can help you work through that.
But Ben, I would add on to that too, in addition to those kind of portfolios that Ben's describing, which have the essay, there are some certifications that we've already set up as equivalencies. So if there's an industry-wide certification, like if you're in the IT space and have done some CompTIA certifications, those already equate to full classes. So if you have the certification and sitting through the class would be a waste of your time because you've already learned everything, we'll just give you credit for the class. The same thing with like we have some equate set up with the Chicago Police Department. So if you've gone through their basic training, we have some criminal justice courses that you've already demonstrated your learning from. So there's a number of options there. And if you have an industry certification that we don't already have equated, let us know about it. We'll look into it and see if we might be able to do that without doing a full portfolio. But we know everyone's life isn't standardized. So if you don't have any of those standard certifications, but have still learned, that's where the portfolio is really useful.
All right, thanks everyone. We've still got a good amount of time. So does anybody have any questions about maybe the courses or questions about other things at Governor State that you'd like to pursue and you want to think about how interdisciplinary studies could either help you pursue that or not? All right, well, I want to thank Ivan. Ivan has put his email address in the chat. I just put mine in the chat as well, and I see that thank you very much, Jason. Jason put the email for credit for prior learning in the chat as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Ivan if you have any questions about interdisciplinary studies.
Yeah, definitely, reach out to me if you have any interest. We can take our time. We can talk over the phone if you like. And I'll, for the most part, I'll be able to look you up if you applied already, whether you're active or not, your account is active or not. I noticed at least one student here who, has at least 90 credit hours. And so, I'll definitely be able to give you those personalized answers, and I could do my best to answer any question.
All right, well, I'm happy to stick around and talk with folks, but I really want to thank Ivan and Debbie and Jason for joining us. Thank you so much. And thanks to Dominique and Mandy and Dwayne for joining us as well. Y'all have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Ben.